is hereby called to order. The first thing we're going to do is to discuss the agenda items and land use cases. We'll begin with CA1, consider minutes of regular City Council meeting of May 22nd, 2012. Any comments or questions? Next item, CA2, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the award of construction contract bid number 12-01 for the downtown streetscaping Andy K. Wells Trail Extension to the Fane Group Construction Company. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As we briefed last week, we have George Lewick is here tonight with us to answer any questions that you might have and expand on that presentation.
Mr. Mayor, I realized after last week I didn't quite bring enough information, I think, as far as explaining the scope. I've asked the firm to come today. They have about a 4 or 5 slide PowerPoint, and I would like to yield, with your permission, to have the design engineer speak to the project scope, if that would be appropriate, sir. Thank you. I'd like to introduce David Newman. He's with the Walker Group. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Newman with Walker Partners. I'm the project engineer for the downtown project, the Andy K. Wells Trail Extension. I believe we have a PDF or PowerPoint presentation. It's up. Okay. We turn to page 2 of that. It says the overall trail project. It's kind of give you a descriptor of what the project encompasses. The existing Andy K. Wells Trail ends at the W.S. Young Park. That's kind of west of W.S. Young. This project picks up at that point, crosses Nolan Creek, continues toward Avenue G and 28th Street, across property owned by the city of Killeen. The trail then extends along Avenue G along its south end, down to Gray Street, at which point it turns north, heads up Gray Street toward downtown, across the BNSF Railroad. At the downtown portion, downtown encompasses 4 to 5 streets, Avenue D and C going east-west, 4th Street, Gray Street, and 8th Street going north-south. Next slide. The overall construction of this project consists of a shared use pedestrian and bicycle path. Basically, the portion from the existing trail to 28th Street is a 12-foot sidewalk. There's a pedestrian bridge over Nolan Creek. The portion from 28th Street all the way around to the downtown is anywhere from an 8 to 10-foot sidewalk, depending on where you are, including an at-grade railroad crossing. The downtown portion consists of just reconstruction of the existing sidewalks in varying width, reconstruction of the intersections at 4th and Gray and 8th with the C and D where they cross. The downtown also includes a lot of landscaping and aesthetic treatments, retaining walls, plantings. The entire project has site lighting, pedestrian lighting across it. The downtown will have more historic features with banners. And there are some paving, roadway paving and drainage where necessary for ADA. Next slide. The proposed downtown improvements we have coming up next are several illustrations of the downtown improvements. This first one is an illustration from the aerial view of Avenue D showing a mid-block crossing. This is near where the Public Works building is today. Next slide. This next slide shows renditions of the downtown improvements, the intersections where we have the crossings. These are the areas where we have more of the street reconstruction work for ADA. What you'll see in these drawings are what we call bulb outs. We have ADA crossings, plantings, and a little more of the aesthetic treatments. Next slide. Where we are today, the plans are 100% complete. We turned those over to TxDOT late last year. TxDOT has reviewed those, approved them for bid. Those plans also have gone through a Historic Commission review and coordination, and the Historic Commission has approved our plans. We've also submitted those to the BNSF Railroad for approval, which they have also done. And the last approval was to TDLR, which is the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for ADA accessibility, and they've also reviewed and approved the plans as well. Where we are today, next slide. The project was approved for bid, as I mentioned. The project did bid in April 29th was the bid opening. The low bidder was the Fane Group, as Mr. Luke had mentioned. Fane Group's low bid was at $5,187,000 bid. Our estimate at the beginning of the project, which is what the city had funds for was $5.9 million approximately. So Feinberg was well underneath our estimate. And the expected construction date, if this does go through approval, is around August of this year. Any questions from the council?
Any questions? Mr. Segar? I'm not asking something that you already covered, but my question is, as far as like the downtown area, is the parking, do we, you know, how do they coordinate? Because I noticed that they're going to be changing the way people park. Are we going to increase parking, or does that decrease it, or how does it?
It does decrease it. I can get the plans and tell you exactly how many, but right off the top of my head, I don't know, but probably about a 10% reduction in parking, because today you have angled parking, this will go to parallel. George was mentioning that on the Avenue G 28th Street portion, there will be an additional parking lot placed there at that intersection for the trailhead. That spot has approximately about 20-25 spaces.
When this hike and bike trail goes along Avenue G, will it be on the north side or the south side?
It'll be on the south side. That placement came about because of the number of driveways in the north, as well as utilities versus the south.
So they'll have to contend with a couple intersections?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? How much of the cost is split, of this $5 million plus is split between the extension of the hike and bike trail and the downtown streetscape?
Approximately, and again, this question was asked me earlier, and I was kind of going through the numbers. It's about $3 million for the downtown, and that includes all the paving, site work, aesthetics, landscaping, irrigation, lighting, tremendous amount of, I guess, hard features going in there. The trail portion is the 2.2, so approximately 3 for downtown, 2.2 for the trail.
And what features are going to be along the trail?
The trail, for the most part, is this concrete sidewalk with pedestrian lighting along the entire length. The only really difference between those two main features is the pedestrian bridge across Nolan Creek, which is about a 220-foot bridge that goes across there. But that portion really doesn't have any of the aesthetics that you'll see in the downtown.
Any other questions? Mr. Lauer?
And TxDOT is reimbursing us how much?
$2.5 million is the TxDOT grant.
Yeah, approximately.
And the remaining, maybe this question is for staff, where exactly is the remaining $2.6 million coming from?
The remaining funds are essentially, if you turn to the fiscal statement, Mr. Mayor, the remaining funds were essentially what was originally appropriated for downtown out of the 204 and the 209 for the bond issuances that we had said for downtown street that we used for our match. So it's, and then in order to meet the match, we also had a few underruns on a few other projects that we moved over to make sure that we had enough funding available.
And those bond issuances are listed in our memorandum?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Lauer?
When was this project initiated?
The question's kind of interesting. And the downtown streets for the rehab for Gray and D were downtown was identified for rehabilitation out of the bond issuance in 2004, and then the grant came up approximately 2 years ago, and we were able to take the grant and match, because we previously had a hike and bike trail, and then they looked at it versus one of the categories within the grant was they give preference to areas that you're trying to do historical work downtown, and then the two was a natural tie because we were able to tie pedestrian improvements into basically a downtown hub for bus station and everything, so it scored really high with TxDOT.
So previous councils have agreed that this is a good thing.
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
So basically our choice today is to accept the $2.5 million worth of funding and do a little over $5 million worth of work to revitalize the downtown area, or to reject it and not make any improvements to downtown. Is that our option?
I'd say there'd be a third option, but yes, that would be.
Tell us what our third option is.
The third option is effectively not utilize the grant and then just take our portion, do something else, but I don't think we want to take away the 2.5 million.
I was talking
Start
about
over,
the two
yeah.
sane and
The
rational.
two, yeah, well, yes. There's always other options, but yes.
Any other questions on this side? Mr. Clark?
So, Mr. Louis, basically, an industrious citizen that wants to exercise and get in good shape can park their vehicle at the community center and work their way to downtown on this hike and bike trail, and then work their way back to the community center.
That's correct.
In a safe pedestrian environment with a couple of intersections
They're minimized,
that minimize.
right, because we're using the creek.
Lots of lighting,
Yes,
similar lighting to what we see on the Lions Club,
that is correct.
Lions Park.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because it's really interesting, because if that lighting is engineered very well, you guys do a great job, because if one bulb is out, you can definitely tell the difference between pole number 1 and pole number 3, and it becomes a very dark spot. And I want to thank you and your staff, for all the entire city staff and prior councils for having the vision to realize that if we're going to do something downtown, we have to start. We can't just keep talking about starting. We need to find a starting point. This sounds like a great second or third step of some of the moves that have been made downtown in the past several years. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on CA2? Next item, CA3. Consider a memorandum resolution ratifying the emergency procurement of 2 quick attack fire trucks for the fire department. City Manager?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, our Chief Gardner is here to brief the item.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, and Council. As we discussed, we're requesting the ratification of the emergency purchase of the 2 quick attack trucks. As was mentioned, one of them did blow an engine. The other one is being utilized in a modified manner. It's not the safest, and it's a 1996 model. So both of these units were slated for replacement. We just, when we started having the problems, decided it would be best to go ahead and do it a little early with the fire season that was coming up. Hopefully get them in before the fire season was upon us.
Any questions for the chief? So another situation where if y'all didn't go out and buy these trucks without any authority from the council, then the city would not have had a firefighting ability?
That is correct. There would have been areas within the city, and it would have limited our ability to respond to mutual aid as well, but it definitely is going to assist us in protecting the property and lives of the citizens.
Anything else? Next item, CA4. Consider a memorandum resolution approving the investment report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2012.
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Gonzalez, Director of Finance, briefed this item last week, and we're asking for your approval of that investment report.
I've seen a copy of the report, and it was briefed at the last workshop. Any questions at this time before we go to the council meeting? Next item, CA5. Consider memorandum resolution authorizing proceeding with issuance of certificates of obligation and further directing the publication of notice of intention to issue City of Killeen, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Ms. Gonzalez is here to introduce the item. We also have members from our extended team, Mr. Wegmuller and Ms. Palumbo, to assist with some of these.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. We do have Mr. Dan Wegmuller from our financial aid, thinking of my daughter. She's graduating in 2 days from high school, so I'm thinking we need financial aid to fund her college. We do have our financial advisor here, Mr. Dan Wegmuller with Spiffy, Specialized Public Finance Incorporated, and we do have Carol Palumbo also. She's with Bond Counsel. So I'd like if they could come up here and we'll introduce them. And Carol Palumbo is the one that always goes into the terminology and does such a beautiful job when she tells you a little bit more about why we do the intent and why we have to publish the notice 30 days in advance, and this is all due to the new regulations and what have you. So here's Carol.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Carol Palumbo with McCall Parkerston Horton. We're serving as bond counsel to the city. I think you have in front of you a resolution that authorizes staff to publish notice in the paper about the issuance of certificates of obligation in an amount not to exceed $7.5 million. This is required by state law in connection with the issuance of certificates of obligation. Publish a notice in the paper at least 31 days prior to adoption of the ordinance actually authorizing the certificates. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the resolution or the process.
Any questions? Thank you.
Dan Wigler's here for the item.
Thank you. The only thing I would add is the timing for this. This sets the notice to be published, and then we would come back to you on July 10th or at a date if numbers were changing or anything to adjust.
It may have changed to July 14th. Possibly.
So the notice date sets the delegation date to be adopted on July 14th or the council meeting in July in order to then have us go out and sell the COs once everything else is published.
Mr. Mayor, would you mind running down the items within the COs real quick? Do you have that?
We do have the detail on we've got some public safety patrol units that we do have on certificates of obligation. We also have some fire trucks. Did you want the dollar amounts? Okay.
If you don't have that, Barbara, I do.
Okay, you may want that. I mean, I can tell you approximately how much. I do have that in my.
Just for your benefit and citizens, for the police department, we have 30 patrol units, basically at $50,684 per unit. We do have 2 fire engines at $855,000 each. We have 1 re-chassis ambulance at $128,000. And we added the 2 quick attack trucks that Chief just briefed on the item prior to this. Total amount was $336,000. So let's see, and we also have
We have the $3 million also.
$3 million for US 190.
For US 190, and there should have been a memorandum that should have been sent out to everybody in reference to that. If not, we'll get it out to you. All right.
Any questions? I think we know what we're borrowing the money for now. Mr. Lauer?
If I remember correctly, all of this except the quick attack fire trucks were approved or were part of the budget last year.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Next item is CA6, to consider rescheduling the regular city council meeting from June 12, 2012 to June 14, 2012. The community farewell for the 1st Cavalry Division Commanding General Allen is scheduled at 6 p.m. on June 12th, a regular city council meeting. That is the time at which people from the community gather to wish him well in his future work and to thank him for being the commander of that division on Fort Hood. There's a proposal on CA6 to move our regular council meeting from the Tuesday night to Thursday night, June 14th, 2012, so that we may attend as part of the community of Fort Hood. Any questions on that?
I would add, sir, that the 14th of June was going to be one of our workshops, special workshops, so that it was already on the slate. It was might be the final special workshop for that matter, but we were scheduled to meet that night.
Any comments, questions? We're going to be coming up for a vote, so we can vote on it during the regular council meeting. But, whatever you wish. Next item, CA7. That is consider resolution appointing Glenn Morrison, Killeen City Manager, subject to the successful negotiation of an employment contract and appointing a negotiating committee. Ms. Maynard, would you brief that, please?
Mayor and Council,
If I could defer to Ms. Davis on half of this, we had kind of split this resolution up in terms of she has worked on the ordinance to appoint Mr. Morrison as city manager, and I've worked on the other part with the employment contract and appointing a negotiating committee. So if it would be okay with you, I'd like to ask her to do that part first.
Certainly.
Yes, this is the resolution that was requested at your workshop of last Thursday. At that meeting, there was a consensus among the council that you did intend to hire Mr. Morrison as your city manager, subject to the successful negotiation of an employment contract. And you did appoint a committee of 3 council members and 2 staff members to work with Mr. Morrison on those details. And I know at your last meeting, you had instructed us to bring back a contract for council's consideration at your first regular meeting in June. And that's what's written in this resolution. And if those dates are still what you are working towards, then you could adopt the resolution as it is. But of course, if there are any changes to any of those dates and the timeline, those changes can be made before your 6 o'clock meeting.
I think it may be the consensus of the council that once that's brought to us for the entire council to consider from the committee, that we may want to have a period of public comment posted on the internet, maybe have some sort of other public discussion before we consider it then on the 4th Tuesday of June. But I think we want to give plenty of time to air this out, right? What the council wants? Plenty of time? Okay. Does everybody kind of understand the schedule?
Let me make sure that I'm clear on this. So as it says now, that the employment contract would be brought forward for council action at the first regular meeting in June, then so it would not be for council action, it would be brought forward for citizen comment?
Well, we're going to bring it forward to see if we like it, but not to approve it yet until after we don't want to put something in front of the citizens to comment on until we kind of like it.
Then how about if we say negotiate an employment contract with Mr. Morrison to be brought forward as soon as possible in June, and in that way you can do with it at that point what you will.
Yeah, I think that's good. If the committee could have something worked out where they can say this is the deal we can make to hire Mr. Morrison, then we can kind of look and see if we approve of those terms that the committee has come up with. But before we approve it as a council, let's air it out.
Okay, so I will change the last sentence under the discussion conclusion paragraph to read, to negotiate an employment contract with Mr. Morrison to be brought forward in June. How about that? And then it will come sometime in June, and then at that point, if you want to have it open for citizen comment, council discussion, then you can do that. Will that work?
Works for me.
Okay. There's also a blank under the recommendation, the effective date of his appointment. I wasn't sure, did you want to backdate it to last week? Do you want to wait until the negotiation of the contract and have it be effective then?
Let's leave it to the committee to determine when that is.
Okay. Then I will just take out the effective blank. I will just say that the city council appoint Mr. Glenn Morrison as Killeen City Manager, subject to the successful negotiation of the employment contract.
Any other comments?
I had comments on the second part of that with the successful negotiation of the employment contract and looking to the negotiating committee that's in this resolution. The next piece of that, in anticipation of that, I put a memo in front of you just prior to the workshop, mainly to give you my contact information and Kathy Davis's contact information. But what we were proposing is that the negotiating committee meet to discuss options and make a recommendation to council, so that, as you said, Mr. Mayor, that the council could review that. But in anticipation of that, we're asking that the city manager and council members provide any specific information that they would like to have addressed or included or not included in the contract, to send that to me or Ms. Davis. And then there's my email address, Ms. Davis's email address, and our respective phone numbers. If you have any questions